Hi guys, excited for our next live class. I call them live Q&A sessions because people will send me DMs, messages on the groups and Instagram and things like that asking about different questions. And so last week I had put a story about me getting ready to do a cold plunge. And someone had sent me a message saying, hey, can you talk about cold plunges? Why you do them? And apparently, the person doesn't like cold at all. So I figured I would do a class on that today because the benefits of cold plunges are absolutely amazing and really, really helpful. And so let's get to it. Let's talk about cold plunges today. So I started doing cold plunges maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. At a time that I was just not well, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. And I remember it was the winter of January. And for some reason, we had a pool at that time in the backyard. And I remember my body saying, you just feel so hot and so inflamed, like going to that pool. As a physical therapist, I use contrast therapy all the time with my patients when I was practicing PT. And so if patients came to me with ankle sprains, I would do hot, like where we put their foot and their ankle in, warm water for about 5 minutes, and then, cold water for about 5 minutes, and kind of do that back and forth to really give them the vasodilation, vasoconstriction, hot, cold. And it was amazing. The benefits were amazing for inflammation. The benefits were just amazing. And so I just felt that, I wanted to do the hot cold. And so I was in the hot, like we had a small jacuzzi attached to it. So I was in the hot, and then I just went into the cold. And it was ice cold because it was January. And I just remember feeling so much better that day. So that, for me, for a person especially who cannot stand the cold, I picked a college in Florida for a very warm state because I cannot stand the cold. When we got married, like I needed to be in, warmer climate. And so always just have not been able to stand cold my entire life. Grew up, the first 17 years in Kenya in a very temperate environment. And so cold is just not my friend. So when I did that, my husband, my kids were shocked because I just don't like the cold. But I felt amazing because my joints were inflamed, my body was inflamed with fluid, and I just didn't feel good. And getting into that cold, it was cold for sure, but felt amazing. And that was, for me, the impetus to start doing cold plunges. And so I have been doing cold plunges at least 5 to 6 days a week for the last 7 years. Without fail. I invested in a cold plunge unit, and I'll put the link on and below. But I invested in a cold plunge unit, and it's been a game changer for me. So we recently moved about a year ago or less than a year ago, and I brought my cold plunge unit with me because I love that thing. So let's get right to it. What are the benefits of cold plunges, especially for someone like me who doesn't like cold? How do I handle it? And also for chronic illness. As you know, this page is dedicated to chronic illness and healing from chronic illnesses. Cold plunges are phenomenal for healing from chronic illnesses. And the last few weeks, I've actually been slacking a little bit. I should actually say the last 2 months, I haven't been going 4 or 5 days a week, and I can feel it. I had a lot of travel. My daughter was not well. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and so I was not as disciplined, and I could feel it. I could feel the inflammation creep back in. I could really feel the mood issues, kind of feeling down and things like that. So I highly recommend cold plunges. I have teenage kids who have mental health concerns, mood issues, especially on their phone all the time. And it is amazing when I tell them they need to do cold plunges every day. I mean, it's just such a mood booster for them that it's been fantastic in their journey. So let's get started, and I'll talk a few, benefits of cold plunges. The number one benefit for brain cognition, it increases brain cognition, and really, really beneficial because when you do a cold plunge, you produce what's called catecholamines, and they include things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine. And so you really, really of course, start to feel better. But norepinephrine also helps control some of the mood issues, the helps with vagus nerve, and kind of calming down the stress response, the fight or flight. So with doing a cold plunge, you're not only having the mood boosting benefits from dopamine, but then also calming down the fight or flight, which most people in adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, any kind of chronic illness, you're very high level of cortisol, high level of fight or flight. And so to get that calm down is really beneficial. The second thing is weight loss. So there's been studies to show that there's actually been studies that show that there is an increase in about 15 to 20% increase in metabolic rate when you are exposed to cold. So when you increase your metabolic rate, you're increasing your metabolism, and so you're really able to help with weight loss. But the other thing that it helps with, when you are exposed to a cold plunge, thermogenesis or any of that stuff, you produce something called succinate. That's produced when you shiver, and the succinate is really what helps with weight loss. So fantastic for that. Like I said, I haven't been doing it for about 2 months now. I feel it. I feel inflamed. I feel like, in general, my body feels fluid filled, very little, but I feel it. Clothes don't feel the same. So I can definitely tell when I'm in a state of inflammation. So that's the next benefit that I highly, highly talk about and recommend, is that it decreases inflammation. Just like any cold, when you have an injury, you do an ice pack. It really helps to decrease the inflammation. So same thing with cold plunges. It was a game changer for me. It's been a game changer for my patients to do cold plunges, because it really helps decrease inflammation, muscle aches, joint pain, even things like tendonitis, shoulder pain, things like that. It's really, really beneficial. The other thing that cold plunges do is they increase the amount of brown fat. Now, don't fire at me and say I don't need any more fat, because brown fat is actually good, healthy fat. You want that. And it's more in your upper back area, kind of by the shoulder blade area. So that brown fat is actually really, really healthy fat. You don't want white fat or white adipose tissue, which is more around the organs, the belly, the hips, things like that. You want to decrease that ratio, and you want to increase your brown fat. And main reason for that is because brown fat cells help with increasing metabolism, decreasing inflammation. They even increase your longevity with helping with the mitochondria and things like that. So when you do cold plunges, it really helps increase the brown fat cells, which is a good thing, which is a plus thing. You want that. The other thing that the cold plunges does is it helps decrease inflammation, which we kind of talked about, but it also boosts your immune system. So contrary to what people think, when you expose to cold, go out in the cold, you really do boost your immune system, because then your white blood cells are able to fight diseases better and faster, and you really, really benefit from increased health, not getting sick all the time. So I, knock on wood, I've been doing, like I said, cold plunges for about 7 years. I probably have gotten sick maybe 4 times in these 7 years. And so really, really beneficial to boost your immune system. So these are just some of the basics. If you go, I'm sure you can go to Google or anywhere and type in the benefits of cold plunges, and you'll see the benefits are innumerable, more than what I can tell you. But I just wanted to address some of these benefits from a chronic illness perspective. The last couple of days, I've just felt out of sorts, haven't felt the greatest, have a lot of stuff going on, final exams, AP exams, like a lot of work stuff, just been really out of sorts. And today morning, I walked the dogs, and then I went straight for a cold plunge, and I just did 2.5 minutes. Usually I do 4 to 5 minutes, but I just did 2.5 minutes, and I felt amazing afterwards. I felt happier. I felt better mood, lighter. So it's very, very beneficial, especially for if you have a chronic illness. This is something that you need to keep up with. It's very beneficial for you. And but definitely, I recommend it for teenagers if they have mood issues, because they lose so much dopamine being in the phone all day. And so really, really highly recommend. You can go back to my page, my Facebook group posts. I've talked a lot about cold plunges and doing them. And the one thing I recommend with my clients, it's very difficult, especially if you're not doing cold plunges, to just go and say, I'm going to get into a cold plunge. It is really cold. I mean, I keep mine, I think, around 40 degrees. Fahrenheit. So it's very, very cold, and you feel it to the bones initially. But the way I recommend my clients start out is they do a hot shower like you typically do, and then just step back a little bit, turn the shower to the completely cold setting, and then get back in and do 30 seconds. I do, one side, and I tell them turn around 30 seconds the other side, get your face. The other thing that you can do, which is a little harder for me, it's been harder for my clients, but you can take a big bowl of cold water, put ice in it, and then just put your face in it for 10 to 15 seconds at a time. That really also stimulates your vagus nerve, and so that's a good start. So you don't really have to just get into a cold plunge right away, because that's a really big step, especially if you haven't been doing it. But for sure, you can do, like I said, end with 30 seconds or a minute of a cold shower. Put your face in a bowl of cold water with ice. You can really do that. All of those things really, really are steps to get started on your way to a cold plunge. But I'll put the link below. I use a brand that I love, and it's worked great for me. It's just fantastic, easy, portable. So I hope you'll give it a try. Please tell me in the comment section or message me if you are willing to try cold plunges. Thanks.